Now, this particular flex is a relatively recent acquisition. Actually, as I'm recording this whole thing, this is actually part of a 2-pack, it showed up yesterday. So, pretty new acquisition, though the figure itself is not necessarily new to me. I did own the Deluxe War for Cybertron Optimus Prime from Generations, I think it was, back. It was when they did that 2-pack that was the Generations Thrilling 30 War for Cybertron Deluxe Prime with the retool / repaint of Titan's Return Cup as Orion packs. I got that 2-pack. And that was my first experience with this mold, and I like the mold, but you know, I generally don't go out of my way to collect Optimus Primes. But Nemesis Primes, which this technically isn't, but also kind of is, I'll get into that when we get to the robot mode. Yeah, those I do collect. And I do think this is a really cool mold. This specifically, as the name of the video implies or outright states, is Kara Transformers United Dark Side Optimus Prime. This is another one that's not technically a Nemesis Prime. But again, when we get to the robot mode, you'll see why I'm kind of raising an eyebrow at that. But this is the War for Cybertron version of Optimus Prime in Nemesis colors, and it looks so good. This is, again, that deluxe War for Cybertron Generations Thrilling 30 whatever mold, and it's really nice. It is a good figure. I I will say there are things that the Studio Series Voyager that came out recently I think does better, and there are things that this figure does better. I don't think you can go wrong with either one, really. I mean, obviously, if you want one that's bigger, you kind of have to get this one, because this one doesn't come in this size. But in terms of overall toy and stuff, I feel like, just go with whichever one you want. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer when it comes to picking between these two. But we'll get more into that as we look at more like comparisons and whatnot. So I'm just going to look at this for what it is currently, and what it is really nice. Not a fan of the weapon storage up here, so I'm just going to unplug that. And this is that weird little rifle thing. I really don't know why they did this, but it's spring-loaded. You pull this little thing, and it flips open. When you see it from this angle, you can kind of see that it flips open like that, and then changes its shape to become this thing, and it's fine. I just don't know why it needed to be spring-loaded. But we'll look at this more in robot mode. As for the vehicle, I really do like this vehicle. It's like this kind of ridiculous, sleek battering ram looking thing with the giant tires in front and smaller ones in back. It's really, I love the contours of this vehicle, and I said pretty much the same thing with the Voyager from Studio Series, but I like how it's just this big battering ram up front with like a slightly smaller, more scrappy backside. The way this comes together is really interesting. The transformation on this is a lot more involved than the transformation on this, despite this being the larger figure. But it's cool, and the coloring on this is great. I love the glossy black plastic that they used, but I also like that they used this more matte finish black plastic for the tires, so it sets those tires apart even though they're the same color. The little hits of metallic teal, really nice in the few places you see it up along here, but then you also get some in front and some silver in the grill section, and of course you get the kind of silver for the rims, but you also get that nice teal kind of outline around the circle on the outside, which is cool. And then around back you've got these, which I guess qualify as lights. I don't know. But yeah, it's a pretty simple deco. Oh, and this kind of silvery gunmetal strip along the back here. Pretty simple deco, but it accomplishes a lot. And like I said, this is just a neat looking vehicle. It looks like it's built to both go fast and smash into things. And it's just kind of fun too that it's like a 6-wheeled ordeal. Thing is, I mentioned that this is part of a 2-pack. And I kind of feel obligated to go over the other part of the 2-pack. So in addition to Darkseid Optimus Prime, the set also included Darkseid Megatron, which is a black and purple repaint of War for Cybertron Megatron, the Deluxe class. And this is also, like, I've never had this figure before. This is the first time I've experienced this mold for myself. And it is really cool, actually. I do like it a lot. Again, it isn't the be-all, end-all version of this character as far as official figures go. I know lots of people like to poo-poo the Studio Series version. I understand the complaints. I also was not a fan of the unnecessarily restricted knee bend. I really don't get that. But the thing is, there are things that this figure does better than this one. And there are things that this figure does better than this one. And I know people really like to complain about the knee bend on this guy, and I get that, but like, do people just forget how the arms on this one work? The arms on this guy are really weird, and there are other interesting but weird leg restrictions on this guy. This is by no means the perfect rendition of this Megatron. This isn't either, but like, people just need to chill, basically. But anyway, we're going to look at these more in depth later. But yeah, Darkseid Megatron is just the Megatron platform with a big old gun on top. This is a neat little design, though. I do think that ultimately this tank mode looks better than this one, even without the big mace sticking off the top there. I just like how this one's a little bit wider and a little bit flatter, and you get a little bit more detail along the top. This one, it doesn't, like, the turret section is pretty much blatantly just the arm, so it kind of fans out a bit. I don't know. But yeah, this looks cool. You get the treads on the sides with the visible fingers, but you can also fold them down to do the hover tank mode, and I think it is neat having the option. I'm not bothered at all by this one only doing the hover tank thing, especially because in the game he didn't actually have a regular like treaded tank mode. It was just hover tank versus hovering differently. But I really do think that the option for this is cool, and the deco on this is really nice too. It's primarily black, but then this metallic purple is glorious for one thing. Looks really nice, and you've got this, like, it's hard to explain. It looks like a gunmetal-y silver color on what will become the legs and a little bit of what is the fusion cannon, but it's actually got a slight purple hue to it. Very subtle, but I feel like you can kind of make it out when you're looking for it. It gives it almost like a slightly rosy tint, and I think that's really cool. I like that it's not just a straight up metallic, like, it's not just a straight up metal color. It just has a little bit more visual interest to it because it's got that tone. And the gigantic fusion cannon on top does launch a missile. The button's on a bit of a hair trigger, but it launches the missile, and it does that thing that Animated Swindle does, but I never owned Animated Swindle or this figure, so this is a first for me to enjoy. But I like how when you push the missile in, it lights up, or not lights up, it like makes these little bits appear that makes it look like a cannon's lit up. And then when you fire, they disappear. So yeah, that's really cool. Now the molding on this is really nice. There's lots of really nice molded detail in there, and it just looks cool. It's a cool looking tank that has a maybe not super obvious, but still not entirely hidden folded up robot on the bottom. But this is a neat design. I think it's, yeah, I don't know, it's cool. I've been kind of wanting to get a hold of this figure kind of on the back burner for a while, and I'm glad I finally did as part of this 2-pack, because that was really the only way I was going to get these two. Now let's go back to what I was saying we were going to do before and take a look at the Optimus Primes together. And again, here you can see how they compare. Aside from the size difference, the shape is very slightly different. It's, like the smokestack things on the Deluxe are proportionally bigger. Because if you look at them next to each other, they're actually smaller on the Voyager. So considering the fact that the vehicle is much smaller, it makes these even smaller. The shape of the upper section here is a little bit different, but it still evokes the same overall lines and curves. But it is really interesting to me how you've got the same overall shape when the transformation is so drastically different between these two. Like, it is ridiculous how different the transformation is. But it is a cool couple of robots. This guy does a bad job of hiding the robot bits. This one does a bad job of hiding the fists. Like, yeah, but it's the back of the vehicle. I said this in the video for this guy, I really don't care. But all things considered, there are two very different takes on the same character that I think do really interesting things in their own right. Now, for Megatron, again, it is kind of a toss-up, but I do think overall the vehicle mode for Dark Side Megatron wins out. I don't dislike this or anything like that. I just feel like this is probably a little cleaner, especially around the top. Like, yeah, this whole section up here is just one big piece you pull out, whereas with the Studio Series, it's just this bit. But I don't know. As I said, it's a toss-up. Though I do like the more pronounced bug mandibles at the front of this one, whereas this one, it's like much tinier. But then the actual shoulder mandible thing is like under here, and it's very tiny, and yeah. And their folded up robot bits are, I don't know, it's interesting how they both hinge the chest plate down over the thighs or over that section, but like they do it in different ways for different reasons. And this guy, the legs curl up over the back, whereas this guy, they make up the entire sides of the vehicle. So it's a really, again, like with Prime, it's a very interesting alternate take. Like, they do very different things to get to the same overall robot and vehicle modes. So I do think that's kind of cool. And you can see, as messy as this is, you do get kind of the same general shape of the fusion cannon with this little point up here. You've got that same little point up here. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see how things are different this time around. And since we haven't actually looked at this Megatron, just want to go over this real quick. Like I said, it's messy up top, but the colors work together pretty well. I do kind of wish that this silver was back here, because this just kind of makes it look like you've got this silver and gray chunk up here, and then back here it's like a darker gray. It doesn't really flow. You get a little bit of nice metallic-y purple detailing right up here that you also get right in here, but I just think a little bit more up in here to kind of match with this would work well. Now, Deluxe Megatron does not have any movement outside of rotating the little treads down to make it a hover tank. This guy also locks together really solidly and doesn't have any movement, but if you really wanted to, you could actually use this as like a turret rotation. You basically have to untransform it a bit because these bits peg into the arm here, but you want to unpeg this. Actually, let's to unpeg the whole thing to do this more easily, but you unpeg that, then pull this up, and it will actually kind of click up, and then push it all back together. Come on. Why aren't you going? There we go. And then push this back together. And now with this freed up, as you raise this, it doesn't affect this because this is attached to the joint, but it does allow you to rotate the turret. It doesn't look great, but I think for like slight rotation like that, it's not awful. It's not great, but it's not awful. But yeah, you can get a little bit of turret rotation on this guy if you're willing to cheat a little bit. Now, why won't you unplug? Come on, unplug. Unplug. There we go. Yeesh. And shove it all back together. There we go. Okay, and now he is nice and solid again. Now let's take care of our size comparisons, because 15 minutes in already. So we're just gonna actually just do one figure at a time, I think, for now. So we'll start with Prime. Bring in Artfire and Rotor Storm and Overprime and Samus and Burnout. And so here you can see how Deluxe Prime fits in with all of these. And removing him, there is Darkside Megatron. So there is Darkside Megatron with everybody. That's how that all shakes out. Get him out of there and bring in Voyager Megatron, because I haven't done a video on him yet. And there is how he measures up. And just as a quick refresher, because why not? There is Voyager Prime, so you can see how he measures up. And now let's get rid of all of these and do a quick comparison with all of the figures we're actually looking at in this video. So we've seen Prime with Prime, but as a reminder, there is Prime with Prime. And here is Megatron and Megatron. So that is how everybody stacks up together in this weird, but I guess kind of makes sense lineup. Let's get Prime out of the way here, and we've got one more size comparison to make, and I'm going to do this with all three of these because, again, have not done a video on this guy yet. But in case you all are curious, there is Darkside Prime and Megatron with Studio Series Megatron with the Duck Tank. Okay, now it is transformation time for 3 different figures. Oh boy. I'll try to go through this very quickly. Before I start, also going to try to go through this quickly. If you want to, if you like this video or any of the other videos that I've done, or like the fact that NemeSeptember is back and you want to support the channel monetarily, there is a link down in the description for my Patreon. I only have a single $1 tier that gets you early access to new videos, and like I said, supports the channel. If you'd rather support the channel without paying, you could always like, comment, share, subscribe, that kind of thing. Or there is a different link down in the description to join the Discord server for Show Z, which is an overseas website I've been using for several years now. Great customer service, really nice prices. Overseas shipping is actually like free most of the time. And they primarily deal with Masterpiece, knockoff, and third-party stuff. They're great. And if you use that link to join their Discord, which is a pretty nice community that they're still in the process of growing, that gets me a little bit of store credit that I can put towards other purchases. With that done, it is time to go through this. So starting with Studio Series Megatron, because this is probably the one people are least interested in. First thing you want to do is pop off the fusion cannon thing. Yeah, I know. We all know it's disappointing. And as before, you want to pop this little section up because it tabs in right in here, and then pop out these panels or sections here. And there we go. Now I'm going to rotate these sections like so, and those will become the legs. I want to fold these bits in. Actually, no, before we fold those in, I'm going to fold this section down, rotate this out a bit, and then straighten out the toe, and fold down foot. Bring this up a bit, want to fold this out. Now I want to bring this in, fold this piece in, which is really stiff. That's just a thing that everyone has to deal with, I guess. And now this comes up and tabs in right in there. It's this little tab here. So you just bring that in, and that should kind of click tab into place. And that is one leg done. Same deal over here. Open this up, pull this out of the way, flip out the foot and the toe, and then fold that in, fold that around, and close that up. You can't, like, you can, if you want, have this piece going in and this piece going on the outside rather than having them overlap like this. This is just how it shows it, and I think considering how this one kind of soft, like it doesn't move out past this point unless you really pull it out, so I think that's kind of how it's intended. Anyway, with that done, I'm going to untab this assembly up here, and the best way to do that is to hinge it up on the shoulder joint. So just hinge that up, and that will untab from here, right in here, I mean, and then this also has a little tab there, or a slot that tabs into that, so that's why you want to curl this around. So untab that, swing this assembly around. I like to bring this panel down and bring that down. That's just how I like to do the shoulder. Straighten out the arm and open up a little door to flip out the fist. And that is one arm done. The other arm you pull up, and it actually tabs into the back of the butt, in addition to kind of softly clicking down in place up here at this angle. So you want to untap that and unclick that, because there's this tab here that goes in there. Do that, open up the little door, flip out the fist, and now this arm swings around from the back, and that gives you your Megatron arms. Yeah, those are words. Anyway, this panel now folds back, and this folds up slightly. So you want to rotate it 180 degrees. It won't rotate. Okay, never mind, it does rotate. If it's fully extended, it won't, but you want to bring it in a bit. So you can rotate that around, bring this down, and then this will tab into the back here. So bring that up and tap that in. And then the chest piece hinges up on this double hinge and plugs into the chest. And there is Studio Series Megatron, who just needs his fusion cannon. So we're going to take this, and this just plugs into the forearm like you'd expect. So there is Studio Series Megatron. We'll get back to him. Now for Dark Side Megatron, aka Thrilling 30 Generations Deluxe, War for Cybertron Megatron, I want to unplug the fusion cannon. Careful of that button. And this plugs in, there's this little slot here that tabs over this piece here. So unplug the fusion cannon, that off to the side. Now I'm going to fold this piece up a little bit for clearance. These panels will untab. These panels here will untab from this piece here. And there you can see there's the tab. So that untabs, and then you can kind of get these out of the way a little bit, kind of rotate and pull up, and that will extend out the leg. So there's that. Same deal here. Pull that panel out, rotate and pull up, and there you go. And this is why I brought this out, because it just gives you a little bit more room to work. To finish the legs, you just want to take these panels that were the top of the tank and fold them back. And then this you can have out or fold in. I kind of prefer folding in because it's just a little cleaner, but you can just have them out for toes. So there is that. Now you want to, let's flip that up again to get that out of the way. Now you want to disconnect these pieces up here. I want to be careful because I've seen a lot of copies of this figure on sale on eBay where this piece is broken. I don't know what causes the break, so I just try and be careful, but I want to unplug this from here, and it will also unplug from here, and then you can pull this up, swing it around, bring it down, and that will settle onto what will become the shoulder there. Now both of the arms hinge down on a double hinge piece up in this shoulder assembly, like so. I'll do the back now. So this piece you want to bring up and it kind of goes over this whole section here. The problem is it's a little bit tricky to get lined up because the hinges are really stiff, but that time went a lot better. So there's that. For the arms, you want to dig out these fingers, and it is not easy. It's yeah, I ended up having to use a spudger for this. Oh, I actually got it without one this time. So yeah, you flip out the fingers and then sandwich that together and rotate this in at that hinge that was for the like this is the upper tank versus tank tread hinge, so that's how you want to hinge that in. But yeah, pull up the fingers, which is still tricky. There we go. And that, there we go. Fold that in, swing that in, and there we go. And lastly, I want to flip up the head and flip up the chest piece. And there is Dark Side Megatron, but he still needs his fusion cannon. So with the fusion cannon, this section is what pegged into the tank. This will peg into the arm. And there is the peg section on the arm. So you just peg that in, and now he has his fusion cannon. You can do this on either arm because it's got the peg there, but it's Megatron, so it's going on his right arm. So there is that. And now for the thing we are all here for. So if anyone's not familiar with this mold, this transformation is kind of bonkers. First thing is, before forgetting, I want to take these panels and flip them all the way around, because those will make the robot mode knees. Now, going to pull this up and pull this up, this bit here. And this will go up and around these pieces. It's a little bit flashy, but it works. Pull this up, and there we go. Get that whole assembly up and out of the way. These panels will untab from back here. They kind of plug in here where the smokestacks come from. So untap that. Now I'm going to basically these pieces hook inside these pieces. So you kind of want to push in a little bit, pinch in a little bit so that you can separate those out. And now these panels will unpeg from these pieces here. And this can hinge up, so you can swing this around a little bit just to give yourself room. And unpeg there. Go. Actually, I want to get these wheels moving too. So pull those out, then pull these around. Pardon me. Okay. Now, what do we want to do now? We're going to keep going with the lower body. So I want to separate the legs. They peg together pretty solidly, but separate the legs. And now you want to straighten out the legs. And this is a little tricky. There's actually a little hook tab right here that hooks into this gap on the inner thigh. So you want to hook that, like unhook that before straightening out the leg. And I can show you better now that I can get this out of the way. So there you can see the little hook tab. You want to push this out so that you can unhook that. Now you want to extend the legs. There's a little slider here to straighten that out. And straighten that out. There we go. Now the wheels can fold all the way around to the back. This panel can fold all the way up. And the smokestacks rotate 180 degrees, swing up, and will peg over this tab here. And then bring down the toe and shift the foot back. Now you can use the toes or the feet. You can reposition them for more posability later, but shifting it back is good because that's kind of necessary for balance, because it moves the center of gravity more towards like the line of the body rather than facing like push too far forward. Anyway, pull the wheels back, pull the panel up, and there you can see the slot that goes over that tab. So rotate that 180 degrees, bring that around, and tap that over there. There is the lower body all taken care of. Now for the upper body, I want to unplug these bits here from the bumper. So that untabs and untabs. It is an involved transformation. This is the Deluxe, remember. So untab those and then bring them up. Gonna bring out these wheel sections a little bit. And now we can, with keeping this kind of up and out of the way, want to pull these sections out a little bit and straighten them out so we can bring these back more. And now these pieces, this whole assembly, can hinge out like that. And this can come back the rest of the way. And then this will rotate around, come down, and here we've got the arms. So we want to fold out the fist from here, take this panel, and this will double hinge down, and this panel will double hinge up, and that gives you the shoulder assembly. So there is one arm done. Again, this is a freaking Deluxe. This is ridiculous. Bring that back, bring this down, rotate it. There is the forearms. Gonna pull out the fist, rotate that, hinge this up, hinge this down, and there we have the arms. Now, I'll bring these panels up so that we can bring the arms up because we want some space to work here. So, next thing to do is I want to rotate this piece here, but this is actually, like, these two pieces can rotate together, but we only want to rotate this top section here, like this. I'm going to rotate that to about halfway and then pull or push this because it's on a slider. I'm going to slide that out like that. So now you can see how it's shifted over like that, because the problem is you can't really bring it forward because then it sits over this piece right here. So you want to rotate it first, then slide it out. Slide that around, and then this can kind of slide back into place a bit. Next, this assembly rotates 180 degrees. This whole section of joints will accordion up into the body. This piece will actually, it's easier to do it now. These bits of the bumper here actually fold in. And they're a little stiff, but you want to fold those in, and then from there they can kind of fold in a lot easier, but I keep them out like that for now. Then this piece hinges down and will tab over this piece. Bring all of that in and tab it together. Tab it together. There we go. Make sure that's nice and squozen. And fold these in the rest of the way. Bring the arms back down. There we go. And finally, going to flip up the head. And this assembly just kind of settles back here. What I prefer to do is tuck this flap back down here and then push this down. You can kind of situate this differently, like you can swing that out if you want, push that in, like you've got options. I prefer to do it this way just because I feel like it cleans up the backpack a little bit more. But there we go. There is Darkseid Optimus Prime, and by extension the Deluxe War for Cybertron figure in robot mode, and that was an ordeal, right? I mean, I like the figure, but like that's a lot to ask for a Deluxe. So since this is the one you're all here for, let's just keep rolling with this. And yeah, this is a really, really slick design. I do, again, have my issues with this figure versus the Voyager. Like, the Voyager just adds so much more beef and chunk to the design, not just because of the fact that it's larger, but like, you know, the thighs on this guy and the biceps on this guy look so small and weedy compared to the rest of them. Whereas this guy, the proportions, I think, work a little bit better as like a chunkier design. But then this one has this one has a slightly more jutted forward chest. This one's a little bit more flat, which I feel like this is probably more accurate, but I kind of like the look of this one better. But then that could also be just me loving those colors. And yeah, it's it's an interesting design. I kind of like that you can adjust the wheels on the back, though personally I think that looks best and is also more accurate to the source material. Yeah, this is a really, really cool Nemesis / Optimus Prime. Again, with the vehicle, like with the vehicle, the contours are really cool, but I like how now that the robot bits are exposed, you get a bit more in terms of harsh angles. It's not just the kind of roundy bits. It's like you still get a bit of that, especially up in the shoulders and in the chest, but now you've got these like harsh angles on the hips, and the bumper section now makes more of a V around the waist. You've got the now visible vents for the shins. I like this detail too, how these kind of flip around. And I've seen people do this where you can leave these up as knee pads. And, you know, that's fine. That is absolutely a thing you can do. I don't mind it. I think it has its own kind of merits, but it does make the proportions of the legs look a little weird. So I prefer to just keep these down. But I like that you have that option. And, yeah, I don't know. I always like options. What else? You still have the pipes along the sides of the legs. You've got the wheels along the back. And this is, all things considered, a pretty clean robot mode. Like, the wheels I don't think really count as kibble because that's part of the design. This flap back here is there and kind of is a shame, but then, like, the Voyager doesn't really present a, like, it's pretty much the same in terms of back kibble. You're not really getting anything cleaner there. But the deco on this is really what makes it just so good. I love the glossy black. The grays, I think, are really, like, because they're a lighter gray, they contrast really nicely with the glossy black colors. The metallic teal looks great and is in a lot of really different places, which I appreciate. Like, you've got all this stuff going on in the shins, but you also get some in the waist. You get some in the chest. Talk more about this in a minute. You also get some of these details in the forearms, and this is stuff you did not see in vehicle mode. Like, this was covered up here mostly. This was covered up. These were actually facing inward. Like, this little triangle here is from the vehicle mode. So this is like entirely covered up in vehicle mode. I love that. Again, these details you don't see. You do see this specific detail around back, but like there's so many nice details that are revealed, painted details that are revealed here. And yeah, that chest, I love the chest, not just the general shape, though I do think, looking at the Voyager, I do think this could benefit from kind of squishing in a little bit. It doesn't bother me, but like seeing them side by side, it does stand out how much this stands out. But that said, look at that gorgeous metallic red that they used. That is beautiful. That is just an amazing, amazing finish and color, and I love that and wish they used that in like all Nemesis Primes, because that is an incredible kind of metallic candy apple red that they put in there, and I love it so much. It stands out really nicely with the black, even though it's a really dark tone. It's so shiny, it stands out really well. You get a little bit of like I think like a turquoise line going through the center there. It works well. Also, like the red and black, and then this bit right here, like the color combinations are so nice. It is a gorgeous paint scheme. And now the thing about this guy that I was saying is kind of weird, and how this is supposed to be a black Optimus Prime and not Nemesis Prime, is you can see it's got Decepticon logos. So if this is supposed to be Optimus Prime in black, why does he have Decepticon logos? Unless it's just, you know, oh, it's dark side Optimus Prime, so he's bad. But doesn't that make him a Nemesis Prime? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. Anyway, the head is Fall of Cybertron, or War for Cybertron, rather. Optimus Prime. He's got those really tall ears, and it's a really nice angular looking faceplate. I really like these little angular cuts in the mouth plate. That looks cool. And also right around the front there, where the nose is, that just makes him look kind of mean. And I really like that. Of course, the black and silver and like the teal there, it's a great color combination. So yeah, this is a really nice looking head on a really nice looking robot. And as for the articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a little bit of side-to-side motion. Look up and down a bit and rotate to the side. The shoulders can rotate all the way around, though you do want to be careful of some of these joints. Like these armor bits can get in the way. The arms can go out that far, but if you account for this piece and move that up and out of the way, they can go out a lot further. So, got that. You do have a bicep rotation. The arms can bend 90, and the fists actually do rotate. And because of the transformation joint, they can go down. So if I get this guy like a sword or an axe or something like that, he can angle it down, which is awesome. And I really, really want to get him an axe or something, because I feel like anything other than the dinky gun he comes with would be nice. Now, because of the nature of the transformation, he does not have a waist swivel, which is a shame. Like, it's just all crammed up in there, and there's no waist swivel. But the thighs do have motion. This piece can hinge up if you want to get it out of the way for like kicking forwards. So you can kick forward that far, so almost 90. You can kick back. I recently tightened the hips. That's why these are kind of fight me a little bit, but you can kick back that far. If you get this piece kind of more up and out of the way, you can kick back a little further. You can go out pretty much to 90. You've got a thigh rotation, and then for the knee, you actually have a double jointed knee, so you can bend practically all the way in. These wheels do get in the way, but the hips kind of accommodate a little bit. But yeah, it's mostly the wheels that get in the way of doing like a full-on 180-degree bend. But you can kind of angle the knees forward a bit if you want to do that too, for any reason. Now the feet are a little bit, I guess, tricky is the word I want to use here, because as you saw, they can kind of hinge forward and back, and you don't want to have them forward for the robot mode because that really will throw off the balance. So further back is better. But if you hinge them up a little bit, they're actually on this like double hinged strut and ball joint. So you can actually use that ball joint to rotate the foot and get ankle tilts. So you can, if you slide these forward a bit, that'll give you access to ankle tilts. So you can actually get a pretty solid outward, or not outward, like a pretty solid A stance on this guy. So yeah, this is a really nicely posable and really just freaking cool looking, I'm going to say, Nemesis Prime. I really, really like this. Now, why do I do all these figures together? As for Darkseid Megatron, this is also really cool. You can see the deco is drastically different compared to the regular War for Cybertron Megatron design, but I like this. Like, the overall breakup of the color is very similar, but he's like a black, purple, and rosy metallic color, whereas he is gray and darker gray and red and stuff. Like, not saying this is a bad color scheme, just like this is like default Megatron colors. This is something a little bit different, and I like something a little bit different. Stand up. There we go. He does have his drawbacks, though. Like, for one thing, these big panels, you've got this metallic purple that's kind of risking brushing up against things. It's recessed slightly, so I think it'll be okay, but I do worry that that might scratch off because that's the bottom of his feet. The overall look and design of this guy is very, very cool. Love the colors. And the shape of him is also very cool, but like that's kind of shared across the design. I love the asymmetrical arm design. And here he's got this really nice, like, whereas Darkseid Optimus Prime uses glossy black, Darkseid Megatron uses a matte black. And I like how that allows them to both stand out when next to each other, even though they're both a black repaint. And also it just gives something different to this guy. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I like that, plus the contrast of the matte plastic with the like metallic finish, lots of other things. It's a great color scheme. This metallic purple with the black works really, really well. I love the extra purple you get in the forearms. And again, these shin sections in this like metallic-y, rosy, purpley color are fantastic looking. The purple knee spikes look great. The little orange light up bits are also cool. And you get a little bit of that in the waist section too, with like some metallic orange in the pelvis, this kind of rosy color for like the midsection. And the torso has some really nice detailing and paint on it. Again, I love the asymmetricalness of the shoulders, but like that, I don't know, I really love the contrast with the very obvious metallic purple shoulder and no metallic purple shoulder. The fusion cannon is not accurate to the game from what I've seen and understand, but it looks amazing. He looks like he's standing at a slight angle for some reason, and I don't understand why. Maybe it's just my imagination, but yeah, this looks great. The thing that stinks with him is the articulation, but yeah, even around back, it's pretty clean. This panel sticks out a bit, but I think that's okay. It would be nice if it folded down, but I understand why it doesn't. Backs of the legs are hollow, but that gives you more access to knee joints, so that's fine. I also like that the molding for the forearms is asymmetrical. Like, they didn't have to go that extra mile, but it is 100% asymmetrical in terms of the detailing, and I just like that they kind of pushed the asymmetry that far. And as for the head, it is War for Cybertron Megatron's bucket head. Looks great. He looks angry. The matte black with the silver is wonderful, and that little bit of metallic purple right above the forehead just looks fantastic. Now, for the articulation, the head is actually on a ball joint, I believe. Nope, not a ball joint. It is on a, like, this platform. Platform sucks. I wish that this either locked into place or that there was something on this chest piece that kept it from folding in, but it doesn't, so it can do that. It's not the worst because this panel actually does hit this hinge when it's folded up, so it keeps it from going down all the way into the chest. So I guess it looks natural, but I still wish that could like lock in place. But you do get left and right rotation, and you can look up and you can like waggle up and down. The shoulders can go all the way around. Going out is very limited. They can only go out about that far. If you hinge up, that does not help. So yeah, you don't get much in the way of outward arm motion. You get a forearm swivel because the elbow is actually here, so this is the piece that's swiveling. You get a really nice deep elbow bend with forearm swivel, no wrist swivel, but you know, that can kind of approximate it. Problem is, you don't get a bicep swivel. The only thing that works as a bicep swivel is that transformation joint for doing the tread thing. So you can swing the arm out like that, and that looks terrible. It kind of looks passable from some angles if you just do it a little bit, and you can kind of play with the detents, but that's just not great. And because of the way this is designed, you have to have it straight in order to have it down like that. You can't like you basically, you have to bend the elbow this much in order to bring that joint out at all. So you're just really limited in terms of the arms. There is no waist swivel. The legs can go forward that far and back that far and out just about 90. This is the thing that bums me out with this guy, though. This is as far in as the legs can go. They cannot go in any further because that's just how the joint is designed. You can see how this just hits that, and that's as far as it goes. I don't like that. I wish that the legs could go like straight. Not that I think it's strictly necessary. This doesn't give him like an awkwardly wide A stance, but I just wish that they could come in just a little bit more. You get a knee swivel, but thankfully it is above the knee. Thank goodness. So yeah, you get that swivel. The knee can bend all the way in thanks to the transformation, so that's cool. And then for the feet, you get that forward and backward rocker for the transformation, but you also get ankle tilts, which is cool. I appreciate that very much. So yeah, pretty decently posable, this guy. I wish that freaking chest plate lock into place too. That, as I understand it, is a problem with this mold just in general. So yeah, that's Darkseid Megatron. And then Studio Series Megatron, he is definitely, I'd say, not quite as sleek looking as Darkseid Megatron. Like, again, bringing the two of them together, they definitely have their ups and downs. This guy's bigger, a little bit beefier, and here you can really see like that stance. He's looking like he's doing a weird kind of power stance, whereas this Megatron can stand a bit more naturally. But yeah, it's you know, I don't dislike this guy. It's just there are certain things this one does better, certain things this one does better. He could definitely benefit from a bigger fusion cannon, but I'll talk about that more in a minute. So yeah, he's still got the asymmetry going for both the forearms and the shoulders. Even around back. Around back, he's actually pretty clean as well. I don't necessarily think he's cleaner than Megatron, because this guy, I mean, let's face it, he's pretty spotless as well. It's just this little panel up here, really, and that's it. So yeah, both really clean around the back, though this guy has the benefit of that really weird but cool Decepticon logo built into the molding on his back, and that's some really nice detailing back there too. This guy, this is just where they hid the mandibles, but it is what it is. And yeah, he is a good looking Megatron for this version of Megatron. The arms look a little bit lanky, but when you look at the Deluxe, they're proportionally about the same. The hands come down to the knees. If anything, the arms are a little bit lankier on this guy, so again, passable. It's a very similar design. You know, he's got the molding and all that, the spiky bits. The thing that's a bummer about this guy is the legs are just kind of the bummer about this guy. Like, these are a bit messy with the hover tank tread bits just folded up haphazardly on the outside. I kind of wish those could have tucked away better, but that's how the figure's designed. And also there's the knee articulation, which we'll talk about when we talk about the articulation. Colors are good. I like that they have these little purple accents in a few places, like the knees, the waist, and the torso. I also like the little, it's not much, but they have a few little bits of black paint, primarily in the torso and in this shoulder, and I kind of like how they keep that motif of like the black venting inside the red pieces in like the two places where it appears. I think that looks cool. Yeah, it's a relatively similar color scheme to the Deluxe, but he wears it well. A little bit more wouldn't go amiss, but I think overall for what this guy does, I don't feel like he's missing detailing. I didn't think this guy was missing detailing either. This guy's, you know, really nice. Same thing with Darkseid Optimus Prime. I think overall, like, the color breakup and stuff works really well for this guy. And for the asymmetrical shoulder, I like, you know, I get why they put this here, but it is a little bit disappointing that this is just a faux part that tucks underneath the body of the tank, and the actual mandible thing is back here. I kind of wish they had done that a little differently, but I don't really know how they could have. Now, as for the head of Studio Series Megatron, It is the same general head design as the Dark Side version, the Deluxe. However, this head I feel like it doesn't push the design quite as far. If we bring back Dark Side Megatron, it just has a little bit more personality to it. The angles come out a little bit more. The difference in diameter between the top of the head and the bottom are greater. This one, it just seems like the tapering is a little too gradual. I kind of wish they had stylized the head a little bit more. Though the coloring is nice. I like the purple bits coming down around his, like, between his eyes, like, they're down around his eyes and mouth. The black in the head section looks good. The red eyes sticking out look good. The silver for the face is also nice, because I imagine they weren't going to, like, paint the whole head, but, you know. It's not a bad head sculpt, though when looked at in conjunction with the whole robot, it does look a little bit tiny. Still, though, it is good. I just think that Deluxe does better. Anyway, the articulation on this head, you get a little bit of up and down. You don't really get any side to side, but you can look left and right. The arms can go all the way around. They can go out to 90 on either side, because this one has that peg for the cannon and tank mode, but it's got that cut there, so you don't have to worry about that getting in the way. You do have a bicep swivel, but it's interesting because his elbows are dual hinged on both sides. So you've got a lower hinge that can bend up to there, and that is below the swivel, so you get a proper bicep swivel. But if you use the upper hinge, that turns it into more of a forearm swivel. So it's kind of a weird setup, but you've got this double jointed elbow, and you can do that with it. Generally, I prefer to use the lower joint, because you still get a really nice deep bend, and that is where you get that more legit bicep swivel functionality. But yeah, that's what that can do. You get a waist swivel, which is definitely something the Deluxe can't do. The legs can go forward that far and back that far. They can go inward, so that also kind of wins out over the Deluxe. They can go outward really, really far. You get a thigh swivel just above the knee. Now the knees normally can only bend like that. This is the big problem with this guy, because there's this piece of plastic here that acts like a hook that hooks over the kibble on the back of the leg. And it is terrible. It has no reason to exist. It serves no purpose in vehicle mode, and it's just weird. And that limits the knee articulation. What you can do, as you can see, I did it on both knees. There's this sort of opening back here. I just took an X-Acto knife and cut that tab section away. And this isn't breaking anything. Like, this isn't like, it's molded in a way so that, like, this cylinder that this pin is going through is still complete. This just kind of has this extra bit that comes out. So, like, you can see there is still solid plastic on the other side of this little slit. So you don't have to worry about structural stability if you are careful when you're cutting. But, like, it serves no purpose. It didn't need to be there. But they put it there anyway. But when you cut it out, you get slightly over 90 degrees of bend. I really don't understand why they did that. It makes no sense. And I thought maybe somehow these pieces were put on wrong, but they're not. Because if you look at the molding here, you got the waffles on the inside. And you couldn't turn it around, because that piece wouldn't allow you to straighten the leg out if you had that hook piece going over there. It's just weird. And also the fact that this knee locks into place is kind of weird too. I can only assume it's for the transformation, but I don't see why that's necessary. But whatever. The only thing I could think of with regards to why that tab is set up like that is maybe they didn't want you to be able to bend his knee like that, because this could be a pokey outy eye hazard. So maybe they were like, oh, if we, only allow the knee to bend this much, then kids aren't going to accidentally stab themselves in the eye with it. That is pure speculation on my part, but that's that's the thing I'm thinking might have been the case. Now, with all that out of the way, the feet also do get a bit of articulation. You get some ankle tilts that works better out than in, but it does work in. The feet can move up and down, and the toes can also move down, though you don't really need to use that for articulation. So yeah, he is a bit more posable than the Deluxe. I mean, the arms can do that, the waist can do that, legs can do that, so yeah. Slightly better, but then he can't look up and down, so there is that too. And also the knee the knee bend, even after modding, is not as good as the Deluxe. The only accessories he has are his fusion cannon and his gigantic mace thing. The gigantic mace thing can plug on his back if you want, and that's fine. I think that actually looks okay back there. Or you can put it in his hand. The problem that I have is his wrist thing for, that is way too loose. I need to tighten that up. That is, yeah. And unfortunately, it's not a pin or a screw or anything like that. It's just, I'm just going to have to go in there with some floor polish or something. But he has the mace, and he has the fusion cannon. The mace it looks cool, though it kind of sucks that the purple just kind of cuts off here rather than continuing all the way down. I'm sure there's going to be repro labels for that, but yeah. But yeah, the fusion cannon is small and dinky, and I don't really like this. I don't really like the shape of it either. I know it's accurate to have the larger tapered barrel section towards the front, accurate to the game, but I don't like it. So the way I fix it is I just do that. And that completely changes it for me. I went from being the fusion cannon looks terrible to that's actually not bad, because this evokes the G1 fusion cannon more because you've got the bigger section towards the back. And it also is a little bit it brings the barrel back a little bit. Because before, when you rotate it this way, it makes it feel like this is sticking forward. Or no, I'm wrong. It makes it feel like this is, it basically makes it feel like the fusion cannon is back too far. When you rotate it around this way, it feels a little bit more balanced. I don't think it's actually any different. This seems like it's kind of in the center, but it helps. It really helps the look of the robot mode to have the fusion cannon rotated around like that. So yeah, biggest downside to this guy personally is just the knees, but once if you're willing to do it and put in the work to fix the knees, I think he's fine. And for what he is, I think he is incredibly cool. And here's me realizing after the fact that I never actually talked about Studio Series Megatron's ridiculous, well, first of all, that needs to be tightened, but I never talked about his ridiculous Evo Fusion or whatever they're calling it nonsense. I guess it's not Evo Fusion, but yeah, he also does the arm thing, so you can unplug the forearm from that arm, and you can actually plug the fusion cannon into his stump, and that just looks terrible. You can plug the fist onto his backside, which is it doesn't really work that way. You got to do it this way, but that kind of works because that's where it sits for tank mode, but it doesn't hold on. Okay, I'm a liar. But yeah, this just sucks. This is not good. So yeah, I wonder if you can, because you can unplug the mace. Can you plug this into here? You cannot. Why did they do that? They keyed this, and they didn't key the other bit of the arm. So that's why did they do that? They really missed an opportunity by not letting you just attach the head of the mace onto his arm. Whatever. Point is, you can still do the weapon forearm thingy with Studio Series War for Cybertron Megatron, and it's just as pointless there as it is with everyone else. So there you go. Okay, let's do some size comparisons to finish this up, because, oh boy, my voice is shot. Now let's keep Voyager Studio Series Megatron out for now, and bring in our size comparisons. So here is Artfire and Rotor Storm and Overprime and Samus and Burnout. And so there you can kind of see how Studio Series, Gamer Edition, whatever it is, Voyager Megatron is, he's tall. He is a big guy. He's not as tall as an Earthrise Voyager, or this Earthrise Voyager, but he is taller than a tall deluxe like Rotor Storm, so there's that. Now let's get Burnout over here and temporarily get Megatron out of the way so we can bring in Darkside Megatron, and Darkside Megatron is, he's a deluxe. So he is shorter. He's a little bit shorter than Rotor Storm, but I think he would look a little bit taller if he could bring his legs in more rather than having him do the weird power stance. But it is what it is. And, he's a deluxe, so that's fine. Get him out of the way and bring in the reason we're all here. Darkside Optimus Prime. I realized I forgot to talk about the gun. Here's the gun. It looks bad. I don't like this. It's not that it's not accurate. Like, it's not that it doesn't look like the Ion Blaster or Ion Cannon or whatever. I just don't like this gun. It looks kind of small and weedy. Also, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get into his hand. It's gotten better since I've been messing around with the figure, but like, I thought I was going to get the gun handle like stuck in his hand and I was going to have to break it to get it out of there. But there he is with his gun, and he sure is holding that gun. Anyway, there is Darkside Optimus Prime with everyone else, and he is on the not shorter side for a deluxe, but he is definitely shorter than Rotor Storm, though he's taller than Burnout. I gotta give him that. And considering the amount of parts on this guy, that is pretty wild. Okay, let's get rid of all of these extraneous size comparisons and bring the main group in together. Let's see all of them. I am so sorry this video is so long. It's just so much. So much. So yeah, there is Voyager Prime with Darkside Optimus Prime, and there is Darkside Megatron with rid of that, with Voyager Megatron. So there is all of them, and yeah, it's like Megatron is a little bit, it's hard to see from this angle, but like Deluxe Megatron slightly taller than Deluxe Optimus. The Voyagers are roughly the same height. Megatron's a little taller at the head, but I think they're kind of roughly at the same level because of Prime's ears. And I think they work together with each other. This Megatron's kind of beefy looking, and there's the beefy looking Prime. This Prime is a little bit skinnier looking. There's a slightly skinnier Megatron. So that is how they all break down together, and it's a really cool trio. This is a really cool set, and again, this Megatron I think has his own strengths and weaknesses compared to this one. And this one, again, I know people love this Megatron, and I understand why now that I have it, but we have got to be real here. This is not the perfect War for Cybertron Megatron. The arm articulation on this thing is really kind of crap. It does what it needs to do, but like, you get no outward motion, you get no real bicep swivels. It just, like, I feel like the people who are like, oh, this version's so much worse than the old one was perfect, like, that's totally rose-tinted glasses talking. It's just not that cut and dry. Again, I'm not saying this is better than this, I'm just saying that this is not definitively better than this. They're both, as I've said, in all of these cases, they all, like, these guys are better than these guys in certain respects, and these guys are better than these guys in certain respects. it's a spectrum. Let's get Prime out of the way here and do one last size comparison so I can stop talking and give my voice a break. Here they all are, the new figures that we're covering in this video with the Duck Tank. So that does it for the Dark Side Takara Transformers United Dark Side 2-pack, as well as Studio Series War for Cybertron Megatron. I feel like we've seen enough of this Megatron, and we've seen enough of the Megatrons in general, so I'm going to get these guys out of the shot, because this is NemeSeptember, so he is the focus. But yeah, this is a good figure. I don't know what to tell y'all. It's a good figure. This is also a good figure. They're really good Megatrons. They're really cool designs for Megatron. So, again, don't think you can go wrong with either. Just depends on what you have access to. But the highlight for all of this, for me, is Dark Side Optimus Prime. Specifically, not because I think this is a better figure than the Studio Series Voyager, because I've retread that ground a lot. It's the colors. The Nemesis Prime deco on this thing is incredible, and that red on the chest is just so incredible. I really do like this thing. I'm glad I was able to finally source one for a okay price. I mean, it's not... These still aren't cheap, but I got this guy plus Megatron for slightly more than the cheapest I saw this guy listed for on his own. And the set was, the box was open, but the set was brand new. They hadn't actually been taken out of plastic or anything. So for that price, for the condition, I think it was worth it. And this is a really cool Nemesis Prime, which isn't technically Nemesis Prime, but still could be. And I feel bad because it's not the kind of thing I could be like, yeah, definitely get it if you can find it. But if you can find it for a decent price, I would absolutely say get it. But that is going to do it for Transformers United Dark Side Optimus Prime and Dark Side Megatron and Studio Series Voyager Gamer War for Cybertron Megatron. This has been a very long video. I'm shot. Thank you everybody for watching. I need to get my little preview thing ready. Thank you everybody for watching. Feel free to let me know what you think of any of these figures, because I know there's a lot of love. Understandable. Absolutely understandable. There's a lot of love for this figure and for the Deluxe Megatron. I totally get that. And while you're at it, if you're up to it, feel free to let me know your thoughts on the Studio Series Gamer version of Megatron as well. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And next time, we are going to look at the last of my, I guess you could call them Grail, personal Grail Nemesis Primes, or rather black repaints of Optimus Prime, when we take a look at something that is a lot older than what we've been looking at lately.